Good morning, Foray, and welcome to our writing lesson today. Today we're learning to plan a character description. So the first thing we're going to do is, I have a model text here, 3 different paragraphs that we're going to read through. This is what you're going to base your writing on tomorrow, and that's what we're going to base our planning on today. So I'm just going to read you through our paragraph. So paragraph 1. As the soldier slowly dawdled through the hazy mist of the forest, he yawned and stretched his thin arms. His cassis flopped about the top of his scruffy blonde hair, and his stained cowl draped loosely around his neck like a lifeless snake. His scutum felt like a lead weight strapped to his back, and he moaned again about the effort it took to heave such a heavy object around. He absent-mindedly swished his gladius through the tall plants around him, slicing the beautiful flowers from their rising stalks. Out of the corner of his eye he spotted a deer munching hungrily on crabgrass and ferns at the bottom of a small dell. The soldier slipped the straps from his lorica segmentata and casually dropped his scutum onto the mossy floor. Groaning like an old man, he slowly lifted his pilum above his head and aimed at the unaware creature. Using all of his strength, the soldier launched the pilum through the air like an arrow before it crashed into the deer's flank. There was a brief gurgling scream as the animal fell dead on the forest floor. Pleased with himself, the slimmest of smiles crept across the soldier's gaunt face. For a brief moment the soldier considered clambering down the dell to collect the carcass and his pilum, but that seemed like too much effort. Picking up his kit, the soldier wandered off. Diana, the goddess of wild animals, had been watching the lethargic soldier in disgust, her heavenly face pinched into a vicious scowl. The luxurious silken tunica that encased her godly frame fizzled with rage. Clutching her golden bow in her strong hands, she swept through the forest in search of her revenge. So, as I said, that's the model text that you're going to base your writing on tomorrow. Today we're going to plan ready for that. So, 3 things we need to think about in our planning today. First question. What characteristic do you think the author was trying to convey with this description? So, what characteristic do you think was the main characteristic of that soldier? Question number 2. What happens in each of the paragraphs and how are they different? So there were 3 paragraphs and they all had a very distinct different thing they did. What was those things? And finally, what has been added to make this a Roman character description? Now remember, we're doing Roman myths, so there's no point in writing about different things we have to do about Romans. So let's look at the first one, the different characteristics. So, what I did when I tried to work out what the author was doing here is I looked through for lots and lots of different clues as to the type of characteristic of this character. And I found these. So he slowly dawdled. His cassis flopped about on top of his scruffy blonde hair. He yawned and stretched his thin arms. He had a stained cowl draped loosely around his neck like a lifeless snake. He moaned again about the effort it took to heave such a heavy object around. He was groaning like an old man, but that seemed like too much effort. Now, these are all clues I found as to what type of character this soldier was. And I think, from looking at all these things, that this character is lazy. He's obviously not a very energetic character because he's moving really slowly. He's probably not quite a brave character. He just killed a deer for no reason. So I think he's quite a lazy character. So the characteristic the author was trying to get across was lazy. This is important to know because when you come to do your planning today, you're going to have to pick a characteristic for your character and you're going to have to get that across in your writing tomorrow. So the next question to consider is what happens in each of the paragraphs and how are they different? So I read through all paragraphs and I think that in the first paragraph, that's where we're getting a lot of physical description about the Roman soldier. We learn about what he's wearing, what colour his hair is, that type of thing. So it's all about his physical description. The second paragraph is all about his actions. That's where he's slowly taking the scutum off his back. It's heavy. He's lifting the pilum above his head and groaning, and he kills that deer. So it's all about the actions he does as a lazy character. And the final one is all about the god description and action. So in that one, we do learn something about Diana. And I think we also learn a bit of kind of her characteristics as well through the actions that she does. So the 3 paragraphs you're going to be writing this week. In the paragraph 1, you're going to really focus on that physical description. In the second paragraph, you're really going to focus on the actions that your character does. And in the third paragraph, you're going to focus on the god and what they're going to do as a result of your character. Okay, remembering this whole thing is focused around what their characteristic is. So if you're going to pick something like heroic or evil, you're going to have to think about how your characters are going to look, how they're going to act, and how the god is going to react to them. So, moving on. What has been added to make this a Roman character description? So, I think what's been added to make it a Roman character description rather than just any character description is a good use of Roman vocabulary. We had lorica segmentata, we had focal, we have scutum in there, we have a cassis. So we used the Roman vocabulary to describe him. We also stuck a Roman god in there, where the goddess Diana, who was protecting the wild animals. So in order to make this a Roman character description rather than just a normal character description, we're going to have to put in that Roman vocabulary, and we're going to have to put in a Roman god. Now, this is really important because when we did our work at the beginning of this week, a lot of you were using words like armor, helmet, shield, rather than things like lorica segmentata, scutum. We need to be using the proper Roman vocabulary in order to make this a Roman character description. Okay, so the next thing we need to do after we've thought about those is we need to think about what the timeline was in these 3 paragraphs. So, first of all, the soldier was walking through the forest. Then he killed a deer and left the body behind. And finally, Diana was angry, so she went to kill the soldier. Now, I know that's pretty much the same as what happened in each paragraph before, but the reason I've timelined it out here is because when you come to write your story, your character description story, over the next couple of days, you're going to need this timeline yourself. So I'm going to plan one out for myself, and I'm going to have rather than a lazy character, I'm going to have a heroic character. So in my timeline, I'm going to have the soldier was marching through the forest. You see, the first one was walking, the second one was marching. I think marching sounds much more heroic. Then in the first one, he killed a deer, but my guy is going to kill the enemy and he's going to laugh at them. He's heroic. He wouldn't go around killing deers. He's going to kill his enemy instead. And Diana was angry with the first soldier, but Mars, who is the god of war, is going to be happy with my soldier and he's going to give him a reward. So if I take the original timeline, the lazy soldier was walking through the forest, he killed a deer, couldn't be bothered with it, left the body behind. So Diana was furious with him and went off to kill him with her golden bow. When I come to plan out and write my story over the next couple of days, I'm going to have my soldier heroically marching through the forest. Then he's going to find and kill the enemy and laugh at them. And then finally, the god of war, Mars, is going to give him a reward for killing people rather than punishing him for killing people. So, my characteristic, as I said, is going to be heroic. So some of the things I need to think about being heroic, the appearance. So when I thought about what a hero would look like, I just put down a couple of ideas. I might not use all of them in my writing, but there's a couple of ideas to start with. So at the top of my head, I came up with they're going to need strong muscles. You don't often have a weedy hero. They're going to need expensive armor. They're going to need lots of weapons. Heroes in Roman myths didn't go around with one sword. They went around with loads of weapons. And he was needing a nice decorative armor. He's not going to have the boring normal Roman soldier armor. This is going to look pretty sweet, this armor. The next thing was his actions. Now, obviously, we've already said he's going to march through the forest. He's not going to throw a spear at his enemies. He's going to march up to them and stab them to death. And I'm going to put a Celt in there. That was one of the Romans' enemies. So I'm going to put a Celt in there. But he's going to stab it to death. And then afterwards, he's going to have a good sing-song about it. He's not going to get all sad and going to just wander off. He's going to kill everyone and then sing about how wonderful he is because he's killed them. That sounds pretty heroic, pretty evil, but pretty heroic as well. And then I thought about the god appearance and the god action. When I said we're going to have the god of war, Mars, he's going to wear golden armor. He's a god. He's going to have to wear everything gold, a golden sword, and a crested gallia. I'd look that up if I were you, but a gallia is like a Roman helmet with a big kind of horsehair crest on its head. So he guy's going to look pretty spectacular, clad in gold with a big horsehair on top of his head. His actions, he is the god of war, so he's not going to get annoyed, is he, if you're killing people. So he's going to cheer for the hero. He's going to give him a hug, and then he's going to tell him where the other people are that the hero can go off and kill. So this was just my quick first thoughts about what my character would look like, what my character might do, and what my god might look like, and what my god might do. Okay, so this is the first thing I want you to do with your character description. I want you to kind of pick your characteristic. Then I want you to think about what your hero would look like, what your hero would do, and then what your god is, how your god is going to react and what they're going to look like. Remember, as a god, they're going to look pretty spectacular. So once you've done all this, I've attached to this assignment a planning format. And in the planning format, there are 3 sections for the 3 paragraphs. The first one is about the character physical description, then there's actions, and then there's the actions of the gods. So what I've done here, you can see in the character descriptions, I've just put a bit more thought now into it. So I had a quick first thought, and I've added more to it. So I've said, before, he's going to have big muscles. But now I've got words like rippling, strong, dangerous, enormous muscles. I'm not going to use all of them in my writing. I might use 1 or 2. And the more I put there, the better it's going to be. His armour is going to be gleaming, polished, golden, silver, muscled, sculpted, indestructible. All words I think could go with the word armour. His weapons, his gladius, his pugio, and his pilum are going to be razor sharp, deadly, sleek. And that decorative armour we talked about, it's going to have line engravings on it. It's going to have gold cape buckles. It's going to have a crimson cape, and it's going to have silver greaves, which is a type of leg armour. Okay, so what I've done there for that section is I've put a bit more thought into what my character would look like, and I've put down loads of lovely descriptive words that would work for my character description. When I come on to my action section, again, I'll think about the kind of things my character would do, write down a few ideas what he would do, put some verbs and some adverbs. Remember, the more words you put down, the easier it's going to be to do your writing later on. Remember, with our plan, we put down as much as we can, and we don't necessarily use it all, but the more we put down, the easier the writing is going to be. And then finally, of course, you're moving on to the bit about the gods. Okay, so have a go with your planning, and we'll see how you get on ready for our writing tomorrow.